Welcome to episode 96 of the Sisters in Loss podcast. May is always a difficult and painful month for us sisters in loss. I'm here to let you know that you're still a mother on this Mother's Day and every day of the year if you've had a miscarriage, infant loss, stillbirth, and infertility challenges. Celebrate Mother's Day in your own special way and reflect on your baby in heaven and the future babies that will be here with you on earth. I love you, sisters in loss, and know that we are here to support you, love on you, and encourage you in every way. Join us in our private community at sistersinloss.com. In today's episode, we have Halima Edge, who shares her second trimester miscarriage story and how her rainbow baby healed her. Halima shares in this episode the traumatic birth she had at 20 weeks and how she turned to God for healing, understanding, and restoration. The doctors could not diagnose her with premature labor or incompetent cervix, so when she became pregnant again with her rainbow baby, she received a cerclage due to her previous cervical challenges. Her rainbow baby boy was born at 39 weeks after overcoming the fear of losing him and healing throughout the pregnancy. This episode is for you to listen to if you've been pregnant after loss and how to seek God for healing, understanding, and restoration. Here is Halima Edge. Well, thank you, Halima, for being on the podcast.
You're welcome.
I like to begin our interviews with you sharing a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so I am a pediatric nurse, and that wasn't by choice. Graduating from college and taking the NCLEX, it's just a lot of competition with new graduates. And honestly, Children's was the only hospital that accepted me. So that was my first job as a nurse. And I actually left, went to another hospital, then I came back to Children's because I loved it. I literally fell in love. I am a pediatric nurse, period. I'm not going anywhere else, unless I'm led to do so. I really enjoy singing and writing. Those are like my two passions. And I have one son, and I'm so happy about it. He is the joy of my life. My husband and I have been married for a little over 2 years, and I'm just living life.
Absolutely. So take us back on your journey to motherhood and share with us your loss story.
So right after my husband and I got married, we got married in like the summer of 2016. And by August, I was pregnant. I was ready. I thought, I want to have a baby so bad. I just thought about raising a child to know and love God. Like growing up, I knew about God, but nothing like what I experienced when I got saved and actually was encountering like his love and knowing who he is. So I was like, oh my God, I really want to raise a child to know God and love God. And we want to go to church and all those things. So we got pregnant really quickly. And early in the pregnancy, there was actually a scare. I think maybe about a week after I was pregnant, I was getting ready to go celebrate my friend's birthday. And I remember I was in the shower and I felt something coming out of me. And I'm like, what is going on? And so I put my hand there just to catch whatever it is. And it was a horrifying big block of tissue. And, it's just blood. And I thought, what is going on? I literally screamed because I thought I'm definitely having a miscarriage. Like, this is what it looks like this early. I had just found out I was pregnant. And so I called my doctor's office. She said, yeah, definitely sounds like that's what you had. Then I think I went to the emergency room either that night or the next morning, and they did the blood draw. They have to check your HCG levels. They also did an ultrasound, which just showed a sac, but it didn't show anything in it. And they did my levels. They said that it looks like I'm still pregnant, but they wouldn't be able to tell until I got my levels drew again 2 days later, because they're supposed to double every day or 2 days or something of that nature. And so it felt like a long weekend. And I just had to wait until I think it was Monday when the doctor's office opened and they could tell me the results. I don't remember the exact day, but it was just a few days between, maybe about 2 days later. And I remember the night before I had a dream that my levels increased, and I woke up And I was like, man, I hope that's true. And so I called the doctor's office and they told me the levels over the phone, and it was like the same numbers. And I remember like just crying, like, oh my goodness, I'm still pregnant. I wrote a sign, I am pregnant, on a piece of paper, and I just held it up as my husband walked in the door from work, and we just rejoiced. It's just a happy moment. But we didn't know that about 4 months later, we really would lose the baby. And that day, it was a Sunday morning. I'm getting up to go to church. And I remember when I woke up, I instantly felt like something was off. And I went to the bathroom. I used the bathroom. And when I wiped, it just seemed like a little blood tinge, like very, very, very faint. And I thought, okay, that's strange. So I let it go. And then I started having a little bit of pain, and I'm telling my husband about it. He thinks I'm okay. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I should just think that I'm okay. And the pain started to become so intense. And I'm just thinking, this is like nothing I've experienced this entire pregnancy. I'm about 20 weeks at this point. And I remember crying so much because it hurt. Like, I cannot explain the feeling. And it literally kind of felt like the baby dropped a little. And I thought, this is called lightning. Like, that's the medical term. Like, this is supposed to happen further down in the pregnancy. Like, what's going on? And so at this point, we could do nothing but trust God that everything would happen, like, as far as a favorable outcome. We just wanted this baby to survive. I remember we were standing in the kitchen and I was leaned over on the counter, like just holding my stomach, like it hurt so bad. I remember my husband got on his knees, he laid hands on my stomach and prayed and was speaking life to the baby. And I had the urge to go use the bathroom again. So I did. And this time when I wiped, it was pure blood, like just blood. And so we rushed to the hospital. And as we're going to the hospital, and when I finally get there, the pain is on 10, like on a scale from 0 to 10, it was 15. And it was a really, really bad experience in the hospital. The doctor was really mean. Like, I had to get from the wheelchair to the stretcher, and I felt like I couldn't move. And she was like, well, hurry up, And I said, I'm trying. And I said, she said, no, you're not. You're not trying. And my husband was parking the car at this point because they made him have to move the car. And I was just so upset that I was by myself and she was being so rude. And then I started to get out the wheelchair and I was sliding on the floor a little bit because I couldn't stand up. It felt like gravity was just pushing down. And she said, you better get on this stretcher because I'm not getting on that floor with you. I was crying right there. But I just said, you know what, let me just muster up the energy and the strength, get on the stretcher because I want to swing on this lady. And so I got on the stretcher and they're rushing me to a room. And as soon as they got me off the stretcher onto the hospital bed, my water broke. And it felt like serious relief. I was so glad to be out of pain in that moment. And I remember saying, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. So now I'm facing the fact like my water broke. I'm still 20 weeks, but I thought of Travis Green. If you know Travis Green, his song, You Made a Way. He said that song came out of his wife whose water broke at about that time, but they had, a healthy baby. So I'm just holding fast to that testimony. And it was about 12-ish noon when my water broke. And unfortunately, that evening around 7 o'clock, the baby came. And from then, the journey of healing started. Off the back, the doctor didn't know how to diagnose me. She said, I don't know if it's preterm labor. I don't know if it's incompetent cervix. And so when I went back to my doctor, then we kind of discussed it a little further. And that's kind of how everything went down that day. And it was pretty traumatic, but here we are.
Yeah. So take us back to what did you do after you all had the baby? Did you all have a memorial service for him? Take us back on that part of the journey.
After it happened that day, we had a lot of visitors. Almost everybody from our church came. Our pastor came, family members, and we kind of all prayed in the room together. After they left, we said our final goodbyes to the baby. I remember feeling really uncomfortable because at this point, he was just cold. When I first delivered him, he breathed for 2 hours and I saw his chest rise and fall. He was moving in my hands. And after a while, He just stopped breathing and his temperature went down. And I kind of didn't want to see him anymore because it was too much. So I had the nurse take him out after we said our goodbyes. I gave him a kiss. We told him we loved him. And after we went home, we kind of just, talked about it. We cried about it. We didn't have an official ceremony. I kind of felt that day in the hospital when it was just my husband and I after everyone left, and we stood over him and, we cried, kissed him, we touched him. I kind of let it go at that point. So as far as a ceremony or any real goodbyes, that's all we did. But at my son now, his baby shower, we did do a balloon release in his honor, the son that I lost. But that was all we did as far as memorial wise for the loss.
Absolutely. So now you all have gone home. Now you actually have to deal with the grief and begin the healing process. So take us back on how you all started to begin to heal, and then really how your faith played a role in that healing process.
Yes. So I think it took a much longer process for me. My husband obviously was pretty shook about it as well. And we just, for the most part, we didn't understand why it had to happen. If I can be very honest, I just knew that it wasn't going to happen because I had faith, he had faith, we had faith, we prayed, we believed God. I mean, we was just speaking the opposite of what it was appearing to be. And when it didn't happen, it was really hard because I thought if I could put all my faith, all my energy into believing you for this one situation, and you kind of let me down, then why should I believe you in any other area? And I didn't go as far as to say there was no God. I knew there still was a God, but I didn't know how to relate to him. If I'm short on a bill and I need finances, I don't want to ask you for finances. There really was a point where unless I really, really, really needed God for any particular circumstance or situation, I really did not ask him for anything. There was a point in time where I remember I was at church, and one of my favorite songs, it goes, "You are good, good, oh, you are good. You're never gonna let me down." And I remember I couldn't sing that part in church because I was like, but you did let me down. So how do I sing this part truthfully when you let me down? And it felt like a really long process because I thought, I want to trust you again, but I don't know how to. How do I trust you? And I kind of had to come to the point where I had to understand that things will happen and it won't necessarily seem like a favorable outcome, so to speak. But God is still there to help you get through it. Even though we wish like he would have stepped in, I had to, there was no other way for me to get past what happened. I had to trust him for the healing process. And I think what was important for me was I let him know how I felt. I said, I don't even know if I could trust you right now because you did not step in when I wanted you to save my child. How can I even trust you with this next pregnancy because I'm going to get pregnant again? How can I believe that you're not going to allow this to happen again? And it was really, really difficult, but I just really had to get in the presence of God. I had to worship. I love singing. I love worshiping God. There was a point where I just stopped. I didn't want to sing to him. But as I continue, I allow his love to just hug me and cover me and wipe those tears from my eyes to the point where I can talk about it and not cry. I can talk about it and not feel my heart being broken all over again. So that's where I am now. It's it was unfortunate that happened, but you still are my God. And I still trust you, even though things didn't go the way I planned. And I'm going to allow you to use this pain for some sort of purpose. I'm going to see if I can help others. I'm going to share my testimony and at the end of the day, I will see your goodness in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. And so many of us have felt exactly everything that you said.
I mean, yes.
Thank you so much for your honesty and sharing that. I know that it's going to free so many women that are listening.
Yeah.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Living Waters Doula Services. Are you currently trying to conceive or expecting? Join me for 6 weeks as we guide you through the anxiety, fear, and stress of a pregnancy after loss. This course begins on April the 23rd, and we will meet weekly to go through topics like stress, self-care, identifying, connecting with this pregnancy, and maximizing memories as you try to conceive. This course is for you if you are trying to conceive and are currently pregnant and need some support and guidance as you go through this new journey with the pregnancy after loss or infertility. Join us for 6 weeks beginning April 23rd. Go to ericaandmcafee.com/courses for more information.
So take us on that journey to trying again and conceiving your rainbow baby, and then talk about that pregnancy and how that pregnancy was like.
So it was about 3 or 4 months later, because I lost the baby in December, and in May, I believe, yes, in May, I found out I was pregnant, which was his due date. I found out around his due date that I was pregnant again. And I thought, oh, this is kind of awesome. And then the fear hit me like a ton of bricks. Oh my goodness, what happened before can happen again. And I was petrified. I was terrified. I was like, I don't know how to trust you. So I hadn't gone through the full healing process before I got pregnant again at all. I would say I finally got to a point where I was okay at 7 months for when he was born. Like, he's 9 months now. At about 7 months was when I was okay. So all throughout the pregnancy, I was a nervous wreck. Somewhere around 12 weeks, or between 12 and 16 weeks, I believe, it was kind of a scare because we went to the doctor and they said my cervix was kind of short. And they wasn't sure at first how to even diagnose me, because when I had my first appointment after finding out I was pregnant, she just wanted to give me progesterone shots, like weekly shots. And she didn't want to do the cerclage. And I remember feeling really uneasy about that, because I thought, well, why don't we do both? Because she thinks it was more so preterm labor as opposed to incompetent cervix, because with incompetent cervix, your cervix opens up and you feel no pain. And, I understood that, but I thought, well, what if my cervix was open the whole time? And then I started having pain, because now my body's like, you're in labor, let's give you pain. But she didn't agree. So she just said, we'll start doing the shots. But when I went to a follow-up appointment, I met with another doctor. They were all in the same practice. And she said my cervix was short and that I would need to get a cerclage immediately. So maybe 2 days later, I was at the hospital getting a cerclage. And that was scary, even getting the cerclage, because when they said my cervix was shorter, I still have to wait 2 days to get the cerclage. And I thought, well, what if I was a baby in this time frame? I mean, there was barely any faith in this pregnancy. So we got the cerclage. I was getting the shots every week in my bottom. That was just not fun, but I had to do it. And I remember feeling so much pain, like it was sharp pain down there from time to time. And I was a nurse in the emergency room at this time. And I just thought, am I walking too fast? I felt pressure sometimes, thinking, this baby coming, Lord, no. And I had to do, I think, weekly checks instead of the normal every 4 weeks and then every 2 weeks. Like, I had to go frequently just to make sure my cervix was okay. It got to a point where it seemed safe. When I got to that 20-week mark, I thought, yes, milestones, 21 weeks, milestones, 24 milestones. And I'm just like, as the time went by, I felt a lot more comfortable. When we got to 30 weeks, I said, this is still early, but if anything's to happen, I will feel a lot better but he didn't come till 40 weeks later. So by then, when it was time for my baby shower around 30, 31 weeks, I was elated. I thought I made it. This is going to be good. So I thought, and then after he was born, I just still had a lot of fear. I said, okay, so didn't die in the womb. He didn't come early. But what if I get in a car accident and he dies? I didn't feel safe. There was no safe period. I felt even though the pregnancy was okay, he could still be taken away from me. And death was just all my mind could think of. Like he is going to die like the other one. My goodness. And I finally got over all of that. Like I said, around 7 months now. But it was really, I was really fearful. I was so anxious and I had no joy for a long time. And I just kept going to sleep and waking up, and every little pain or every little movement, I would be like, is he okay? I remember trying to buy a Doppler because I was like, I have to listen to his heartbeat, make sure he's still alive. It was a hot mess.
Well, I so can relate to you. I understand that. So I'm happy that you shared that. And, some of my clients that I coach, I always tell them, if you really feel like you need a Doppler, go get one. Because at the end of the day, to relieve some of that fear and anxiety, you may need to make and check on your baby every day until you get those milestones. So it's good that you celebrated those milestones as well, because that is something we all have to do in a pregnancy after loss, is making sure that we celebrate the milestones that we get to, because like you said, that fear still creeps back up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy that you pointed out and you talked about the fear when your baby was earthside, because just even last night, my son's 4, I had a bad dream about my son. My son has some special needs and he's disabled. So I had a bad dream about my son, and it shook me up so bad that I literally could not get back to sleep. So that trigger still is there for me, even now, even though my son's 4, that something still could happen to him. And I want to protect him from everything that, that could harm him. So I'm so happy that you shared that as well, because I think a lot of moms feel the same way. So take us back on your journey going back to work. So returning to work now after you've had your rainbow baby and being around or even before you had the rainbow baby, going back to work when in the hospital, working around other babies and children. How was that process as a nurse? How did that play a role in your healing, and how did that really affect basically how you function every day?
Yes. So actually, it was much better than I thought it would be. I thought I would be weeping and I would have to ask my boss to go home early, but it wasn't like that. I went back to work and I remember I was taking care of a newborn, and I thought, they're so insensitive. Why would they give me a newborn? They know what happened. And a lot of it was that embarrassment too, because my good friend and coworker, we worked together on the same floor. It had just happened to her 2 months before. So everyone was already looking at me like, am I next? And when it really did happen, it was awful. Everyone wanted to know what happened, and I wasn't ready to speak about it. I would say the worst part about returning to work was the eyeballs, everyone looking at me, and the questions, and they thought, oh, maybe it's something with the air. It's something on the unit. It was so bad. And the comments when I got back to work, off the charts. I remember this one young lady, we didn't work on the same floor. She worked on another unit, and she said, well, oh, you have the baby. How was the baby? And I said, no, unfortunately, I lost a baby. And she looked at me and she said, oh, okay, you're young. You're fine. You'll have another one. The things you say to people, I handle it so well. I just looked at her, I smiled, and I walked away. And I remember it hurt me so bad. And another young lady, which happened to be her sister, they didn't know that they both spoke to me. She said, well, what happened? And I didn't really go into detail. And she said, but you walk too fast. I would see you walking. You were walking so fast. She had her accent. And I thought, well, way to blame me. Way to blame me for what happened. It was really bad. But as far as taking care of the newborns, I remember I went into one room. This baby was about 2 weeks. And I held the baby and I just thought, I'm going to have one of these one day. Like, I remember smiling and there was so much joy in my heart. And I thought I was going to cry, but I looked at that baby and I said, I'm going to have one day. And there was this was maybe a few months later. I was talking to one of the parents who also had a really small baby. Her baby was about 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And we just started talking. She just happened to mention that she experienced loss. And then I shared with her my story. And she said, when are you going to try again? And I thought, I don't know if I'm ready. I'm a little nervous and maybe I should wait until things are right. And she said, listen to me. You need to try again. You don't need to wait until things are better. You don't need to be afraid. You need to try again. I went home. I told my husband. We tried again. And then we got pregnant probably about a month later. But that was the most difficult part, was my coworkers and everyone who knew I was pregnant and now coming back to work. It was difficult answering that, oh, how's the baby question? Oh, my goodness. It broke my heart every time. I became a pro at answering the question. Oh, no, unfortunately, I lost the baby. It's okay. And they would have this shocked look on their face. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. And I would have to relive that moment over and over and over again. But it got easier. It definitely got easier. And I was able to talk about it. So.
Absolutely. Yes. I echo everything you just said. Everything you just said. Oh, absolutely. That's definitely going to help someone out, especially returning to work, because returning to work is difficult in and of itself. But like, I really wanted to ask about the hospital because I can imagine how triggering it is. But standing on God's promises, holding our newborn, that just touches me. That just touches me. So thank you for sharing that. So what tools or resources, books, anything that you use to help you on your healing journey that you can share with the listener?
One book that I use, it's titled Heart Made Whole. It's by Krista Blackford, I believe her last name is. And she shared her story as well. It was a little different. She made it to full term, but when the baby was born, maybe about half the brain was missing and the baby just died in their arms. They were doing a home birth. And she shared her story about how she had to go through the whole healing process with God and how she just couldn't trust him after that. And then her trust in him was restored. So that book was really, really relatable. Heart Made Whole. And also I had counseling sessions. I wasn't afraid to say I was depressed and that I didn't know how to trust God. I knew that I had to trust God. Like, there's no way we live out this Christian walk. So I said, I have to do what I have to do. If I'm upset with him, let's deal with it. If I don't feel like he's for me and not against me, like the Bible says, let's deal with it. So I had counseling sessions with some of my pastors at church. I also spoke with some other ladies who went through it. I always say in my blog that I felt like I was inducted into a secret society because when everyone heard what I experienced, I got so many phone calls, so many messages, and they shared with me their stories, and to see that they had children now and, that they had faith. It was encouraging to know that I can get there and I will get there. I just have to do the work. I have to be open to being vulnerable with people, being honest, not hiding my feelings. And I didn't talk to everybody. And that's another thing we have to know. Everyone is going to inquire, but you don't have to share everything. I just didn't want to let everyone in. It was just a very, very sensitive time. And I think that's understandable. But so books and counseling sessions and lots of prayer, lots of talking, just expressing my feelings. Journaling helped tremendously. When it first happened, I went to see my family in Georgia. And I remember we were driving back from Georgia and I just heard the Lord say, write. So I started writing and I was just busting into tears. And it felt so good just to cry. I schedule time to cry because it helps. It just helps relieve stress, emotions, all this buildup. I mean, women were already hormonal. Let it out. So all those things helped me.
Awesome. So what encouraging words can you leave the mom out there who is afraid to try again to have her rainbow baby?
I would definitely say you can get through this. You can get to the other side of this pain and this fear. I would say talk to people who support you. If you are a woman of faith, pray, and journal, be very honest and open and expressive with your emotions. And just know that one day you will hold your promise.
Awesome. So let's talk about your blog. Share with us your blog and what you're doing with your blog.
So I think I just started it last month, September. And I started it because I felt like there was a lot of silence around this topic. I mean, like you kind of said earlier, it was a taboo subject. And not only that, but I felt like the situation kind of made me question who I am. It made me question who God is. And it just made me feel like I wasn't worth anything, like I was nothing, like I wasn't woman enough because I couldn't carry the pregnancy. It was just really bad. And so I decided that I was going to start a blog and share my experience, share how I got through it, what happened, how it made me view God, how I got over it, how life got easier, and just hoping to really help someone, because it's not a lot of people willing to openly share this. So yeah, I'm just writing and sharing my journey and just hoping somebody will be blessed by it.
Awesome. So where can we find your blog and where can we find you on social?
My blog is unlockedandunraveled.com. So unlocked like a door being unlocked, unraveled like unraveling lies, because that's one of the main things I focus about. I believe all these lies about myself and about God. So that's unlockedandunraveled.com. On social media, it's my full name. On Facebook, Halima Edge. On Instagram, it's Mrs. H. Edge. Yes, I'm just on Facebook and Instagram. That's all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Halima, for sharing your story and sharing your light with us. Mm-hmm. I know that the listeners will definitely be blessed.
Thank you so much, Erica. What you're doing is so amazing. So amazing. And I know people are already benefiting.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I pray that this show was inspirational and a blessing to you. For show notes, visit ericamcafee.com/podcast. Please join us in our offline discussions in our private Facebook group by going to sistersinloss.com. If you're listening in Apple Podcasts, please rate and subscribe to us and leave us a 5-star review. I pray that you all have a blessed week. Keep the faith, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday.